Welcome to a Record Searchlight live chat. Our guests today are Reading Mayor Missy McArthur and April LaFrance of the Safe City Project. And I'm Jenny Espino, reporter for the Record Searchlight. Mayor Missy McArthur and April LaFrance are here to talk to us about a trip they took to the Restoration Center in San Antonio, Texas. The facility is a one-stop clinic for mentally ill offenders and substance abuse that has found a way to reduce the number of people who cycle through jail. After hearing Leon Evans give his talk on the issue, the two of them talked and decided, why not visit? So, Missy and April, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Jenny.
Which one of you wants to tell us about who went and what happened during the trip?
I'll begin by saying that April and I went, of course, and we had Jonathan Anderson from the Good News Rescue Mission, Margene Stone from Empire Recovery, let's see, help me.
Donnell
Ewert from the Shasta County Health and Human Services.
Leah Tate,
psychologist for the Veterans Administration, and I think that's about it. Did we round it out? I think so.
I think you got the key
Pretty much.
players.
Yeah.
And we should mention as well that Lynn Dora from Hill Country was supposed to join us on the trip, but she became ill.
Food poisoning the night before, so she couldn't join us. But
so we missed having her.
She's been at our meetings that we've had, including the meeting that you were at, Jenny, and then another meeting that we had subsequently at Good News Rescue Mission. She attended that. So one of the take-homes that we got from the Restoration Center was collaboration. Collaboration was key to the workings and the functionality of that facility. It really worked. They had all comers from all over the community participating and working together to get the best outcome for these citizens.
Okay. April, tell us how the day started and how it went on from there.
We only had one full day in San Antonio, and they filled our day from beginning to end. We had meetings scheduled. I think they changed speakers every hour.
5 minutes.
Yes.
50 minutes.
We literally had a working lunch. They scheduled us all day, but they hosted an incredible visit. One of the things that stood out to me was they actually brought in 3 representatives of law enforcement that had special training in dealing with the mentally ill, and they shared their experience and their history, and it was very eye-opening to see what an asset that was in their community. They had just a full spectrum of healthcare services represented in that day. And we also took a physical tour of both the Restoration Center and then the Haven for Hope campus, which is just right across the street. And it further demonstrated their ability to collaborate. And so this is a large city, San Antonio, and the way they described it, they really used to be siloed services throughout the city. And it was through a lot of effort and setting a vision to collaborate so that they would be better prepared to offer holistic services to the disadvantaged and the displaced, and those that are suffering with mental illness and substance abuse issues. And they have really achieved it. They've become a national model. So it was a privilege to meet with many of them and to take a tour of the campus.
I'm glad you bring that up, because actually my next question was going to be what other facilities are around the Restoration Center. So when you talk about all those services that are clustered around that, like what?
Well, we have the
map.
The map, which shows the medical clinic, the sobering center, the Restoration Center, the Haven for Hope. They really did it right. They had hairdressers that were part of a salon that was on that campus to help with that sort of issue if people needed haircuts and so forth. And everybody was a nonprofit as far as I remember. I didn't see any for-profits on the campus, did you? I think they were all nonprofits donating their time.
On the Haven for Hope campus, I believe it was a collaboration of nonprofits, but really varying in who they represented from. I mean, they had faith-based, non-faith-based, and
I think
it was 33 partners actually on campus at the Haven for Hope. So different organizations represented. Very powerful demonstration
I was
of collaboration.
remembering even more than that. I mean, it was an incredible number. Even 33 is an incredible number to have that many nonprofits in one locale, all with the same vision and the same goal, moving that vision forward.
You want to hold up your map, April?
I think that might be visible.
I don't know if you can see that.
Visible.
It's pretty small. But they had medical services, including dental and vision. And I think one of the things that stood out for me on the physical tour was the area that was for homeless individuals or transients that was safe. So they had, maybe they didn't want to participate in the services that were being offered, but as you know, even in our community, domestic violence aside, a lot of the violence in our community is transient on transient. So those skew our statistics. So what they did was they provided an area that was probably the size of a football field or half a football field, where people could come in during the day or during the night and take a mat, lay down, sleep. They had showers, lockers,
Meals.
and meals. And maybe they didn't want to participate in a program of how to get sober or how to get off drugs or whatever their issues were. But they were safe so that they could sleep and not worry that somebody was going to rip off their stuff or assault them. And they had security guards. So it was a safe place for people to stay, which I thought was really unusual. I'd not seen that somewhere.
Yeah, so that was called the courtyard, and it was gated. So when you come in, you were acknowledged who you were. Everyone had a name badge still, or it had been identified by security, and that was, so the courtyard was also called their safe sleeping area, and it was that. So it was perhaps a family wasn't ready to engage in transformational services. They still had the opportunity to sleep in an area that had some security that was overseeing the campus. The amount of security that they had on the campus was impressive. There are cameras everywhere. There's a central sort of security hub where they have their staff is able to see all around the campus, really, and they're keeping an eye on things to just want to protect people.
And there are some people involved that have a criminal background, and one of the things that the safe sleeping area did was it was removed from the family housing, and they were gated away because of if there had been child molesters or something in the element that chose not to accept services. They had the safe distance and they protected the different groups that way.
So about 18,000 people pass through the Restoration Center. Is that my understanding annually? What's the success rate?
I don't remember the number, but
Did you guys hear about what the success rate is?
Yeah, their success rate, I definitely have some stats with me. It would take me a minute to pull them up, but what they've done really well, the Center for Healthcare Services and the Restoration Center, what they've done really well from the beginning, and I think it's something to pay attention to for our community, is from the start, they really tracked information well, and they were planning to announce their successes from the beginning. So even before they started, they said, we're going to find out where we're successful, and we're going to communicate that message. And so it's something that their staff really invests in, is tracking data and information so that they can report it. And that intentionality has opened up a lot of funding for them. And so it's been something that they have leaned into and consistently done, and has created more funding over the years. So I'd say they really excel at telling their story well through accurate data collection.
And I think that some of the gray area for us is that there were statistics for the sobering center, which might be different than the restoration center, which might be different than, how are the families doing that were homeless and now they're succeeding and they've found homes and et cetera. So they really do document and track their numbers. So there are a lot of numbers, so I don't really want
Yeah.
to spout out numbers that might be incorrect. If you want to pull them out and look at them, that'd be good.
Just from listening to you guys, I feel like there are some applications for our community. Did you guys get the sense parts of this are doable for our community?
Absolutely.
And if so, like what parts?
Well, as you know, we went there based on the Sobering Center, and we definitely feel that that's doable, don't we?
We do.
I think the whole group is energized from the visit and wants to see that happen. We have some obstacles in our community that weren't present in San Antonio, such as funding. San Antonio has the founder of Valero Petroleum Products as their deep pocket or sponsor. So we don't have someone like that in the community, and as you know, the sale of the police station fell through at this point, so we don't have a opportunity there. If the ballot measure for D&E passes, we'll have half of the funding then. So hopefully we'll be able to sell the police station, the old police station, and get the funding in place, because you have to have funding before one of the nonprofits really wants to take on the onus of running the Sobering Center.
But I thought that the sale of the property across from the police station to RABA is funding that's going to be made available to the Sobering Center. No?
No, I don't think so. No, I think
Okay.
the police station. One of the other things I wanted to touch upon that April alluded to was the officers that came and spoke to us. One was the sheriff deputy and two were San Antonio police. And one of the things they said is that they have had no police officer involved shootings in 5 years, which is just a phenomenal statistic for that huge of a population. And they said that they have learned how to talk down somebody who maybe is either coming off drugs or has mental health issues, so that they said in their training they were taught to use the command voice, like on your knees, hands behind your back, that kind of tone, as opposed to, hey, what's going on? Are you having a bad day today? And they showed us a video of an officer-involved shooting of somebody who's obviously mentally ill and probably couldn't track the orders, and the command voice, they said, escalates these people. So I think that was one of our take-homes.
It was a really moving video. It was it was quite intense.
Very, very. So I think one of the take-homes is we need to look at that training. I know RPD does do that training, but maybe even more so than what's happening now. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it was impressive.
What were some of your takeaways? Just sort of like what?
About the
mayor's
visit in
talking
general?
about? Yeah.
Definitely collaboration. I think that ability to move from siloed services to the same general location and working together, I think that really gives an opportunity to provide a more holistic approach to services, better access, better efficiency, better collaboration, reduced duplication. I also appreciated that their location, where they chose to put both the Restoration Center and the Haven for Hope, it was in an underutilized industrial area. And so, we took a short amount of time to walk on San Antonio's River Trail and went out to dinner. But most of our time was spent on this campus, and it was very separate. So the area where they chose to set up their services was accessible, but it wasn't in the midst of a business district. It was an industrial area, and it felt like it had the capacity to grow even more. So they have certain partners that are on campus, and then there are buildings around that were being bought up by people who wanted to collaborate but not necessarily be physically within the gates of the same campus, but they offer services which are helpful to that population that's coming to the campus. And so it was built with an ability to expand and offer even more things to the population that would come.
And one of the things you had mentioned was like the Family Justice Center did when it was brand new, which is also being duplicated around the state, of providing services in one central location as opposed to, I mean, it's beyond collaboration, it's physically all together that makes it a little bit different. And
Yeah.
One Safe Place does that now with the housing as well as all the services that were at the...
Definitely. And being on the board for One Safe Place and realizing when someone comes to us, they're coming in crisis. And as much as we can reduce barriers to them receiving help in that moment, the better off they have, for an opportunity to really heal and rebuild their lives, especially someone coming in crisis that's bringing some kids in tow. To ask them to go all around our city to get help it's a lot in that condition. And so that really moved me. And actually having Jonathan Anderson alongside us on the trip and walking through this campus, and I asked him, what would you think about expanding your campus or being gated and inviting other partners to come in? And he said, I would love that. The mission would love to be able to provide more services. And so I guess it got us dreaming about that a little bit for our own community, what that could look like.
So then what's been the talk since you guys have been back, and have you had any follow-ups with the other people who participated? And tell me about that.
We have, and definitely still very interested in the idea and the concept. Again, the stumbling blocks, financial, as per usual. I think that temporarily we might look at someone like Empire doing the Sobering Center as part of, because they kind of have a setup. But long-term...
In the downtown, or where?
Well, Empire is downtown.
Yes.
But that might be a short-term. And then long-term, as April was talking, maybe seeing something like this, either with Jonathan's group or Lindora's Hill Country Clinic group, so that we can have services co-located. And the collaboration's easier when you're working with people that have the same ideas or the same vision anyway, and you can bounce them off of one another and sort of, okay, I'm doing this part, what part do you want to do? As opposed to, I'm doing this part, and then you find out this person over here is doing the same thing. You have less duplication of services that way.
Okay. Missy, you had also talked about wanting to visit with April the Sobering Center in Santa Barbara. Has that happened?
We haven't. We've both been up to here. Her kids are out of school.
Yeah. One thing I just want to mention about the Sobering Center in Santa Barbara, I've spoken with the director, and what I like about it is it's small. It's actually, they serve a similar sized population to Reading. So they have between 1,200 to 1,500 visits a year. And that's around our number of arrests for public intoxication, according to Reading Police Department. So it's a similar number of people served, and they have 8 beds, really small staff, very small space. I think it's around 550 square feet. So it's kind of a shoestring model of providing a jail diversion in that community. So their police department drop-off at their sobering center is approximately 5 to 15 minutes total for their drop-off. And then that person has an opportunity to sober up in a safe place, and they have a face-to-face interaction with opportunity for services that are available in the community. So I'm very interested in visiting, and it just may have to be at a later date.
About the sobering center, so what population is being targeted? Are we talking about homelessness, or does it go beyond that?
Oh, Sobering Center really is just that. It doesn't matter if you're a billionaire and you're found by RPD to be inebriated on the street. RPD can take you to the Sobering Center as opposed to jail, or the Sobering Center as opposed to the hospital. So it just is, it doesn't matter if you're a transient or a billionaire. You're going to, sober up in a safe environment and hopefully get an opportunity to change your life.
April, talk about the intake process, because I think it's worth mentioning what that intake process is. Someone's on the street, the person's drunk. What happens?
So I'll tell you what I do know. Right now, if our police department picks up someone for public intoxication and gets them in their vehicle, takes them to Shasta County Jail, and goes through a booking process. The officer time can be between an hour and a half to 2.5 hours. And then county staff at the jail also gets involved in that intake process. We do have sobering cells at our jail, so there is an opportunity to sober there. But we're talking about some large tax dollars involved in the process for that person's sobriety period. An intake process at a sobering center, the police pick up someone for public intoxication, they get in the police vehicle, drive them to a sobering center, and there's an interaction with the staff at the sobering center. There's an assessment. They're not going to take someone there who's violent or committed some other large crime. This is someone who's primarily, they got picked up for being intoxicated. And there is an assessment by the sobering center if they feel like this person is going to be able to sober in their facility. They do have the right to deny, and if so, the police would take them to the jail. But generally, they get received. It's a one-page, I believe it's a one-page document in San Antonio, very quick in Santa Barbara, that just is a release form that they are released into the hands of the sobering center. And it's usually once they get checked medically, usually around every 15 minutes to just make sure that they're doing okay. And once they are sobered up, have had an interaction and discussion about services, a phone call goes out to family or friends to come pick them up.
Okay.
And it's an EMT that runs it, is in charge of kind of monitoring the patient, or in this case, the public intoxicated person.
How do you get at the treatment part, though? Because you can have them also cycling back in and out.
Oh, and that does happen. They admit that happens. But at least they're given the opportunity to hear about those other opportunities that they might want to change their life. And there was a statistic given about how many times maybe they recycle through till they decide, okay, now I want to go to the restoration center. Now I want to see what I can do besides sober up. So there are statistics that show that, yeah, definitely there are frequent flyers that they see over and over. But then sometimes on the 4th time, sometimes on the 10th time, maybe they say, okay, I'm tired of this cycle. But nevertheless, it saves time for the police and resources for the taxpayer to have a sobering center, as opposed to, as April was saying, the whole process of take them to jail or take them to the hospital. Then if you take them to the hospital, that really ties up the police, because then they have to wait there, and then they have to take them to the jail, and they wait there, and meanwhile.
And my understanding is currently if they are booked in jail just to sober up, it's something like a pamphlet that they're given that describes some services. So this is a personal interaction, and your staff at the sobering center builds relationships with people over time. And so trust can be built and opportunities given. And I'll just say, as we were in San Antonio, we were standing in their sobering center, and there's, someone sleeping off something, snoring loud enough that we had to talk over him. We asked a lot of questions, and one statement that they said that really stood out to me is they said, the sobering center here serves as a gateway to recovery. And so it's not a promise of recovery, but it is an opportunity. It's an invitation into recovery, and it happens through relationship. And I think I would love to see that offered in our community.
How do we get there? You talked about the hurdles with funding, but really, what?
Well, we keep the momentum. I mean, we're committed to keeping our group together. Our group is committed, I think, don't you?
Yeah, and I think, Donnell has voiced he's willing to take some leadership in the conversation, which is really key just because of his role in our county.
Yeah, because I'll be stepping down in my role as mayor, and April is busy.
So, running her business.
Yeah, but we'd like to see it happen, and we'll stay involved to the extent that we can, of course.
And I think, the fact that the Reading City Council voted to earmark $375,000 in funding at the sale of the police station, and then if Measures D and E pass, that's another $375,000. That's a great start for a nonprofit to choose to come forward in our community. So, I'm in favor of Measures D and E. I think that funding would support some needs in our community.
Yeah. Particularly you, April, you brought this up before to the City Council and to the Board of Supervisors, and nothing happened at the time. What do you think changed, or what has changed since that we're able to have this conversation?
I think some of the things that the Safe City Project proposed required a little longer timeline than some others. There have been quite a few successes that have already happened based on the solutions we proposed, and then there are some other solutions that had a longer range, and I think the Sobering Center is one of those.
I think you should tell them about the successes.
Sure. So Safe City Project proposed solutions to improve public safety in our community in November of 2014. One of the things that we proposed is called the Journey Home, and it's a homeless reunification program. And since that program was started, which the Good News Rescue Mission has been the lead on that program and done a fantastic job. Make sure I have my stats right. 147 homeless individuals that had been in our community have been reunited with friends or family around the country. So that has been a huge success. Some incredible stories have come out of that. We'd also proposed a reserve police program, which has since been approved with a 5-0 vote at City Council and implemented in the Reading Police Department. Neighborhood turnaround, we created a focus on neighborhood watch groups, and last I checked there was over 50 that had been established in our city. RPD also began the neighborhood policing unit, which I think has made, just in 2016, over 500 arrests in protecting our neighborhoods. Code enforcement and calls for service. We've really wanted to see a crackdown on problem hotels and motels, and we are so thankful for leadership in the city, the DA's office, and the police department for the progress that's happened with literally stopping some of the haven for crime that had been able to sustain in our community for a while. So with the Americana and the Reading Inn and the demolition of the Hilltop Lodge. Am I okay to keep going?
Keep going.
We talked about expanding successful rehab programs and mental health counseling services. The Good News Rescue Mission has had some very successful rehab programs, and they just opened their Victory House this year, which is going to expand their ability to offer rehab to women. And then we also are seeing some progress, and maybe you can speak into this, Missy, with the county awarding Hill Country
Clinic just got a big grant for that exact
thing. So very excited about that. Reclaiming spaces from illegal encampments. So since Safe City Project, RPD started a new way to report illegal encampments on their website. Super easy. I've used it multiple times, and I actually got an email back from Mike Thomas, one of the code enforcement officers, to let me know, thank you, April, I received your report, and we are heading out to tag the campsite. Also, a boat patrol was begun to address illegal camping along our river frontage. A ton of camps have been cleaned out. We've just talked about the Sobering Center. And one of the other longer range ones is the increase of jail space, and so that is something that would be addressed with Measures D and E.
Anything else, Mayor, that you'd like to add?
No, I mean, I just think April's group did a fantastic job of bringing those ideas forward, and then the blueprint for public safety pretty much reiterated what they had already said. So the Sobering Center was mentioned in the blueprint for public safety, addressing mental health issues, increased jail space, all those things that her group said, hey, let's look at these things. It was kind of reinforced. So I really admire April for, doing what she did for our community. Thank you.
Thanks. And I think, we had the opportunity to start a conversation to talk about what can be done to build the city that we want to live in. And so many different people have collaborated to move us forward, and there's still more to go.
One thing I do want to mention about the Restoration Center that we forgot was the pets. If you have a lot of people that are homeless or transient have a pet, a dog or a cat. Mm-hmm. They have a place that's probably about as big as this room where they have kennels set up, and The only criteria is that you have to take a shift feeding and cleaning the kennels, and then you can house your animal, and the food's there. So it's really a wonderful thing to not separate people, not say, well, you can come, but your dog has to stay out. Forget it, because a lot of times that's the only interaction somebody might have. So I just wanted to say that was another really different good thing that we saw down there. Of course, I'm a total dog person. So.
Okay, well, it's been a good chat, and I want to thank April and Missy for having joined us in this chat. So that is it for us, and if you didn't get a chance to watch all of this live chat, there will be a recorded version. So check back. It's going to be available on Reading.com. Thank you.